President Donald Trump is threatening to raise tariffs on Canada over what he calls an unnecessary invasion of smoke from wildfires drifting across the border into the United States. There are currently nearly 900 such blazes across Canada, most of them burning out of control.
Heavy smoke brought on by hundreds of Canadian wildfires is enveloping many American cities, including the capital, Washington, D.C., obscuring major landmarks and affecting the air quality for locals and tourists.
Yeah, it's really hard to see. I was walking up here from the African American Museum, and I was a little nervous about my lungs and breathing it in.
I do have asthma, so I feel like it's going to end up getting to me a little bit after walking all around DC and everything.
You could see the smog, and you could actually smell the smoke.
I don't really like the smoke. It's just because it's so smoky, I don't like it.
In a social media post on Friday, Donald Trump said the U.S. was being unnecessarily invaded by filthy, polluted, and unhealthy air, the quality of which is dangerous and totally unacceptable. He went on to say this willful negligence must be added to the tariffs Canada is currently paying. The wildfires have put communities across Canada on high alert. The epicenter is northern Ontario, where nearly 200 active blazes have forced evacuations across many parts of the province. The Premier of Ontario had this reaction to comments by American politicians blaming Canada for the smoke.
I truly believe the Americans are good neighbors. If there's some politicians out there chirping away, well, maybe what you should do rather than complain is send support, send help, because we have done the exact same thing for our American friends, and that's what you're supposed to do.
Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney did not address the accusations directly. Instead, he suggested the U.S. do more to combat climate change, which scientists say is a driving factor of the increase in frequency and severity of wildfires. Carney and Trump will likely run into each other on Sunday at the World Cup final in New York City, which is also being hit hard by haze and poor air quality as a result of the wildfires in Canada.
Well, a short while ago, I spoke to Matthew Cappucci. He's a senior meteorologist at weather forecasting service MyRadar. He was in Arlington, Virginia, just across from Washington, D.C., and he explained to me how the smoke can travel such vast distances.
For starters, you just have a ton of smoke. These are incredibly tall boreal fires up in northwest Ontario, releasing a ton of material into the atmosphere, and it's surfing the jet stream east, this river of winds in the upper atmosphere all the way to the eastern seaboard. Unfortunately, that weather pattern looks to continue for quite a while. Now, the weird thing is, step outside here in the nation's capital, I can hardly see the Washington Monument, which is only about 1.5 kilometers away. Ordinarily, you can see up to about 15 kilometers from here. So we have visibilities like 10% of what we should have. Interestingly, the smoke doesn't really smell like smoke. It's not like a campfire. It smells almost plasticky. And the reason for that is it takes 1 or 2 days for the smoke to get here. The heavier aerosols that smell more smoky settle out, leaving behind things like volatile organic compounds that interact with sunlight to produce formaldehyde. So this smoke isn't just inconvenient and a nuisance. It actually increases your risk of heart attack, increases respiratory issues. Your eyes might start to sting. This is the second time in 3 years it's been this bad. Right now, we have a code purple. It rivals the pollution in a place like Delhi, or even worse right now than Beijing. And this is all due to smoke.
It sounds pretty brutal, to say the least, Matthew. Now, many viewers will remember the smoke that blanketed North American cities back in 2023. I was there. I remember it. It was pretty awful. And we're seeing similar scenes again now. Is this becoming a regular occurrence because of climate change, essentially?
Well, fires are always going to happen. In the case of 2023, interestingly, there's a record heat dome or ridge of high pressure that brought hot sinking air, drying out the landscape in Canada, and then they got thunderstorms, partially thanks to that heat, and those thunderstorms were what sparked the lightning that made the fires. So in a roundabout way, it was catalyzed, actually, by climate change, and the fact that it's warmer, and in many cases drier, means you're much more likely to see bigger areas burned. So Climate change is actually increasing the risk of extreme fire behavior, and that can lead to higher-end overachieving events like this. And you can see that satellite imagery right there. I mean, my goodness. All that smoke is just caught up in the jet stream pouring southeast. No wonder it's blanketing the eastern seaboard under an incredibly thick, toxic shroud of fine particulates.
Now, I mean, you've mentioned it now a few times that it's essentially this air is toxic. And for people looking out their windows and seeing these hazy skies or these smoky skies, you've mentioned the health risks, but can you just sort of tell us really how serious they are and who should be most concerned and what precautions they should be taking?
That's a great point. You know, I hate to say it, but it's almost like the COVID days in that you want to break out the N95 mask. Anything to filter out those fine particulates. And just to give you all some idea, these particulates are about 2.5 microns across. In other words, 1/30th the diameter of a human hair. And that's why if you breathe those into your lungs in concentrations like we have right now, that's bad for anyone, not just the elderly, not just the vulnerable, not just those with respiratory issues. It's bad for everybody. And so I'd say minimize outdoor exposure, skip the jog, skip the afternoon walk, stay indoors if at all possible. And for folks with air conditioning units, set their HVAC to only recirculate indoor air. Don't bring in air from the outdoors until this clears, sometime in the next 24 to 36 hours.
Tell us, you've mentioned there before a little bit about the weather conditions. What is it that what combination of conditions do you have to have for this situation to arise?
Well, unfortunately, east of the Hudson Bay, we have a counterclockwise spinning low over like northern Quebec, northern Ontario. And that's just kind of pinwheeling all this smoke south and east. And unfortunately, that weather pattern doesn't look to budge for the next week to 10 days, perhaps until the calendar flips to August. We do have some cold fronts that'll come through and periodically make the air a little bit better, but here's the crazy part. Later on this afternoon, we're expecting scattered showers and thunderstorms up and down the East Coast. Those thunderstorms are also forming in a smoky layer, so there's a chance that we scavenge the smoke out of the air and produce dirty raindrops, literally ashy, sooty raindrops that make your cars and the ground dirty as a result.
That's pretty, you're painting a pretty scary picture there, Matthew, to say the least. Now, the story has also sparked a political row between Washington and Ottawa, but from a meteorological perspective, what does it tell us about the fact that climate and environmental disasters just don't respect national borders?
You're 100% correct. I mean, I know there are some politicians who want to sue Canada for the fires, but by that logic, should Canada be able to sue us every time it's hot and humid because the air is coming from us? I mean, forest management is something that is very important. At the same time, it's unrealistic to expect that type of management of boreal uninhabited forests. But it goes to show you that anytime you have a disaster like this that can affect a large portion of a continent, the response has to be from multiple different agencies, multiple different countries. No country exists in a vacuum, and the weather certainly, as you said, does not respect borders.
All right, Matthew, we'll leave it there, but really great to get that update and also that explanation of what is happening. Matthew Cappucci, Senior Meteorologist at weather forecasting service MyRadar, joining us today from Arlington, Virginia. Take care. Thanks, Matthew.
Thank you.